Tony talking trash about music tonight. Let me continue along, as I said. I just got my hair cut. It's sticking up here a little bit weird. Looking weirder than I normally like to look, but that's me. Let's continue on the Fleetwood Mac thing. We did the Bob Welch thing, and he's an interesting character. And as I was just getting ready to get the Peter Green thing together, you know what I was thinking about? I was thinking about who I can forget about, really. I mean, Christine McVie, couple records, good records. Okay. Stevie Nicks, I'm not going to do. Buckingham. Lindsay, I don't, I know his stuff, but I don't know enough about all of it to really feel qualified with that. But there's another person that I skipped over here. And another thing that's really kind of been in my crawl, that whole big thing about Munich. And that's going to play out when we talk about Peter Green here a little bit. But the whole thing about the German people, and I think I just saw something recently or listened to back. I had a long ride in the car, and I listened to this interview from Peter Green's son, who was somewhat skilled at it, but at the same time, kind of bewildered. And it's not his fault, that what happened with his father, because his father clearly came back, and you can hear it. I mean, you can hear it on the records, you can hear it everywhere. Something happened to him profound mentally, and I'm not so sure it was related to anything that happened over there in 1970. But there's one thing it said on that video in the VH1 or whoever produced this thing, that if I was the estate of Danny Kirwan, I would be really kind of pissed off. Because the manager of Fleetwood Mac talks about that party over in Munich when Peter Green evidently had the horrible trip. And they talk about him and Danny Kirwan both being mentally ill from that point forward and not being able to do that. Let me tell you something, man. Not only did Danny Kirwan steer through 3 or 4 or 5 years after that, a few years after that anyway, by himself, and was a huge part of Then Play On and stuff on before. But of all the people making the solo records, his records are presented a little bizarrely. One of the covers with his look on his face and the lady kissing him. We'll look at that here in a second. But there's nothing on those records suggesting there's anybody with any disorganized thoughts. That there's any person that is distracted by any sort of side thoughts by getting organization done. These are well-organized, well-thought-out pop records. And the thing about Danny Kirwan's 3 records, and we'll talk about them today, the thing about these records, they're very consistent. They're also very insistent on a pop direction. And much to the chagrin of a lot of people who liked, Jigsaw Blues, who liked all his stuff on Then Play On, all the counterpoint on Green Monalishi, all that stuff. Very little of his guitar stuff is really present in his work. And if you look at some of the songs that he did up through Future Games and Heroes, and even up to the point, and if you look at that, I think one of these last records he had, he even had the guy from Bob Weston, the guy that ended up putting the moves on Fleetwood's gal at the time. But anyway, I'm talking about Danny Kirwan with this guy. It's taken me a long time to get around with it, but kind of a sad figure. And I just don't like the way he was defamed. And then Jeremy Spencer talking about how he's there and stuff on one side. And dude, he made 1979 made functioning records. How about Jeremy Spencer's records from that period of time? Are you sure it wasn't Jeremy Spencer that was? I mean, I like Jeremy, but man, oh man, I don't know. Let's go. I want to talk about these three records. He did the great rock between 68 and 72 with the Mac, and then he was a solo artist from 1975 to 1979, and he was born in Brixton, left school in 1967, and worked as an insurance clerk for a little while. His mother grew up, they listened to jazz, and Mick Fleetwood said they met him in a little club in Brixton, and Peter was impressed with him finally and took him under his wing because he's looking for a different direction. Jeremy had him more of the straight stuff and did that stuff very well. but it wasn't where it went. And at the end, Peter leaves. Peter goes through the Munich incident, and I just don't like the guy that's throwing him in with that. It really pisses me off because the evidence is here. This is a well thought, well organized, well together guy who made three great records. Let's look at them. I'm going to rank them in the order that I have them. Certainly, the third one, the third one that I have here is, and I'm not counting the Ram Jam, but it was the last one. Hello there, big boy, and although it's been described, this record has been described as ramshackles. It is by no means. This is a very organized record, a very together record. Somebody who knows what they want, who organized things very much in certain sounds. You have there's very much a direction. And the three records he did this was done by far the latest in 1979. And, unfortunately, when this was at 1979, he had an aversion at that point to playing out live. And I can relate. I mean, I've been off the playing for a while, and I'm not putting myself in these guys' thing, but I'm just saying, on a personal level, I think a lot of people can for different reasons. I don't see the point in going out and replicating songs that everybody knows and that. And I think he felt there were certain things expected him. But what is funny about all these records and really hits you, because if you heard these in succession when they had, and I think I did, and it wasn't because necessarily I got them when they were released. I got them probably 10 years after the fact, 5 to 10 years after the fact, somewhere in that line. But I remember getting them all pretty much at the same time, and or close to it. And I can tell one of them I got up at Jerry's because of the writing on it. But this was the last one. And so, and by the time the third song here, you're talking about end Up Crying, it's really not Danny Kirwan style stuff at all. It's really for the pop charts. And it's amazing how much 45 charts, whoever was in charge of him really tried to steer him towards that. In this record, who was the producer here? Clifford Davis production, Clifford Davis and Tony White, DJM Records. Number say the sixth song, or the piano led deal here, You. I thought it was a really, really, really beautiful ballad. And it was good too, but real poppy. I think this album comes together the best on the third and the fourth song on the second side, which is Spaceman Into Summer Days and Summer Nights. Spaceman is really good. It has has the Fender Rhodes style going, and that's the one thing about this record too. It kind of co-ops a little bit of the Fleetwood Mac arrangement styles too, and you can even hear on a couple of these songs. And probably the ones that I like the least, the ones where he even kind of apes the delay that Lindsay uses on this stuff. So it's really funny the way that this works. But no, number 9, no, Spaceman is really a world style. It's just really, really good. I mean, it's the quality of the song is great. And the last song, you had to know he was going out. He loves the Beach Boys, and you can tell he does. You can hear his harmonies throughout all his music. That's one of the things that's surprising. He has more of that going on than do the other records of Fleetwood Mac. And isn't that interesting? Lindsay was the same way. Lindsay, covering Farmer's Daughter and all this stuff. They're all big, huge Brian fans. And on this, who's the one you got? You got Bob West, and you got Kirby on there, and Fran Byrne. This is just recorded Kingsway. They said he was having depression problems. They said he was. Let me tell you something, man. This is a well-arranged, almost a Spectrum style arrangement on this. Some of the songs, soul songs, really good record. And I would rate this a 4-star record. This record is together, but there obviously was very little market for it. I mean, you can see that this singer-songwriter thing is it. For the next one, I'm going to go to the one where Joe's going to show you the alternate cover here, Midnight in San Juan. But this is also released here in the U.S. as just Danny Kirwan. This is his second record, and it has I don't know, a non-flattering picture of him in the back. But again, this is already when he was ready to not uh, to not tour. But what a great record this is! And again, his records to me, they're very poppy. They're surprisingly poppy. And another thing about this record, you keep waiting for a situation for his guitar to come in because the production's a little clear on that. On this one, the first one is a little random. There's actually a song or two where really pop out differently. But the first two songs on this really not crazy about. I Can Tell and Life Machine. Very. It's okay, and it's also, but they're very strum style guitar things. You're thinking to yourself, "Wow, this is not." I'm not thinking about this. I mean, some of this is contributions later in Mac. I can see that, but I think at the same time, most of the time you didn't have that, but you have a beautiful song, "Midnight in San Juan," and that is the alternate cover with the gal. That is sticks out like a sore thumb on this record. A beautiful jazz like playing really kind of shows his taste. Uh, beautiful pop song. Beautiful with the synths. Just a gorgeous use of it. And it's funny. He like his. I think it's a mono, but it sounds like it's a mono use of it throughout this whole record. Then for some reason he does the damn dumbest thing in the world is a cover of Let It Be, and it's done the reggae version. It's silly. But the last two songs on the first side, Angel's Delight and Wyndham Autumn Day, you tell me that's the work of somebody who's not that. That's impressionistic. He's doing his own impressionistic Brian Wilson thing there, and he's not really using the vocals like I told you on the end of the last record. This is something special, and I think it's beautiful. I think it's one of the top one of my top Danny songs. You're looking here from this on. I like Misty River is beautiful. It's kind of Americana. You get the feeling of it. You get the feeling of the beautiful seventh chords. It sounds Rundgrenish at times. It's just beautiful. And it's pop, but I'm not so sure it's that different from the first it's not as much as the first side of the next record we're going to talk about, which is the second chapter. Rolling Hills, kind of countryish, kind of good. He gets in the country vibe a lot on the first record. We'll talk about in a minute. Then we talk about the last two that I Can't Let You Go is really the one that I'm not crazy about much. It's a drop beat at the end, and I don't think it really fits. It tries that reggae thing, and almost, I don't know if it's programmed, but he does seem to have a drummer, Jeff Rich, here with this stuff. Sounds like one, but some of the stuff it sounds pretty stiff at times. But I think Castaway is again rescues the side. So again, some great thing. Angels Delight, super great. Midnight San Juan, super great. Castaway, really nice use of synths on Castaway, and but again, it sounds a little bit like the Mac songs, and it's funny when it progresses to the next record, you can tell it even cops it more. So it must have been happening right about this time. I think it's a 1976 record, either called Danny Kirwan or Midnight in San Juan, and that leaves us to the very last one. And this is the surprise, because this is the first one that I heard, and I remember it. And I knew then playing on by that time. And I saw this record, I thought, and I'd heard some stuff too about you. I heard the story about Munich and stuff. And you see the second chapter, you think, oh my God, I think it's the Bible or something, as he flipped his lid with this. I think the presentation may be over the top a little bit, but it is stunning to me. Stunning as to whoever is the one doing it, this first side, how total pop oriented this record was. Strings all over the place, a la any English record, to the point of like Nick Drake, where those beautiful the Kirby strings came in. Something else, man. But his voice is passable. It's not even as good as like Nick Drake's voice. Pretty good. Danny Kirwan's voice is laid bare pretty good in this first one because of it's a very plain type of playing, and he can sing. He's a functional singer, but he's not a great singer. I wouldn't call him that the high, and that's what makes the precipice on this record, being the vocals and being such quaint songs. And you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the first side. A couple of them are very, very in production, so you don't know where they came from. I can't remember which one of it's the third, Hog Summer or Mary Jane, but one of those jumped out of it. But the arrangements are from a guy named Jerry Shurry, so maybe they tried to do the same sort of thing that they did on Five Leaves Left or something. Who knows? Additional musicians: Jeff Britton on drums, Jeff Russell, Andy Sylvester bass, Paul Raymond bass, piano. So interesting, but it's the second side, man. The second side of this record is, in my book, side 2 of second chapter is better than any single side of anything that Fleetwood Mac did from then play on up and through the whole period. I mean, I guess some future games, maybe you could say. I guess maybe that's putting it a little strongly, but right up there with it, man. Second chapter, just beautiful, beautiful arrangements, beautiful use of strings, beautiful use of all this. And you're thinking this is 1973. Falling in Love with You, just got the Beach Boys. It reminds me of Beach Boys' Friends. The second song sounds Lovely Days. Just sounds like second chapter too. The whole sound just sounds like it's nice. When they go the oohs and the ahs, that's at the end of the second chapter. I don't know if that or Lovely Days. It's just beautiful. And the end of Lovely Days, when they come back in with a reprise and they come in one more time with the thing. It's just mastery. It's just the type of stuff that. Then you got this country stuff, you got the Fall in Love, you get this country style melodic funk or folk thing happening. Almost sounds like the third Falling in Love with You almost sounds like a cousin to One Took Over the Line by Bruin Shipley or something. But it's beautiful. It floats on that kind of a thing. And you realize how drumless the whole thing has been. I mean, it's really been a folky thing from the beginning. You're saying to yourself, my God, this is how Danny Kirwan sees it, but it's really, really pop. Then, Silver Streams is, it steps up some, and then you've got a little bit better, and it sounds more like Fleetwood Mac. This sounds more like a Fleetwood Mac type of a song. This is one that should have been there, and maybe that's why he calls it Silver Streams, because it's kind of close to the one. What was the one that Stevie Nicks did? Silver something. But the last one, Cascades, just gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. So you can hear the Beach Boys thing. You can hear the guitar line. And then finally the guitar comes in and does the prominent part as it does. But never overcomes anything. It's really a chord, a singer-songwriter type of a record. And it's really Jim Dandy. Unfortunately, Peter Green wasn't, as we'll find out soon, Peter Green was never really in the right frame of mind to deliver anything like this. So think of all the folks that did. One that is overlooked constantly is this one. See if you can find this record, guys. Second chapter, this one's great. Ram Jam City, Hot Summer's Day, Mary Jane, Skip the Dee-Doo, Love Can Always Bring You Happiness. Poor Danny, man. Danny ended up in a bad state. But for these guys to be saying this crap about how he was immediately disabled from the cult from Germany and this shit, when this is last album was all the way up in 1979, he was putting out records when Nixon and Buckingham and Nixon joined. After that, 2 records after that. What the F, man? I mean, if I was this state people, I'd be pissed. I'd be suing them. It's crazy. Anyway, it doesn't matter what people said about it or that. Listen to the music. It's organized, well done music, well thought out. We've heard Syd Barret stuff. We've heard Alexander Skip Spence's stuff. We know the way people that are disorganized and can't get it together sound. We know the way that sounds. There's none of it on here. Not a smell, not a whiff. Beautiful stuff, beautifully thought through. And especially the kiss off at the end of Hello There Big Boy is the Beach Boys touch is fitting. Anyway, look into the Danny Kirwan catalog. I'm not going to go ahead and fish out. I fished out some songs and the catalog's too small for me to do a countdown of that. But I will be back at some point with the Peter Green stuff, guys. Please smash that like button. I should have told you that at the beginning. Smash it up, guys. Go on. Hit it up hard. And you help us out a lot by doing that. I really appreciate all you subscribers. Thanks for hanging around here. And we'll be back at you very soon with something new and something fun. Thanks a lot.